Good evening. On behalf of our Marshall-Ridley residents and community stakeholders, thank you for taking time this evening to join us for our CNI 101 presentation and discussion. Given the unprecedented uncertainties facing our community and nation today, when we don't really know what the coming days and weeks will look like, it feels like a lot to ask that we come together to focus on an effort that may take years to reach fulfillment. However, the fact that we are able to come together and collectively look toward our future, even in the midst of COVID-19, is a resounding testament to the vitality and resilience of our city and our residents. My name is Grant Duffield, and I am proud to work with the City Manager's Office of the City of Newport News, serving as the Senior Project Manager for the Marshall-Ridley Choice Neighborhood Initiative. I am also quite pleased to be your host for this evening's presentation and discussion. Thankfully, you'll be spared from hearing only from me tonight, as I am joined by a talented team of guests and panelists whom I'll introduce momentarily. Before I begin, I need to take a moment to recognize the tremendous efforts of those who have made tonight's presentation possible. Dr. Sunithya Newby, the City of Newport News Neighborhood Revitalization Coordinator, has worked diligently to schedule and orchestrate our discussion this evening. Thank you, Dr. Newby. Similarly, Ms. Sarah Bowman and the team from Newport News TV are to be greatly commended for their excellent work in bringing this event to you this evening. I'd like to share a word of thanks to Mayor Price, our city councilors, and our city manager, Cynthia Rolfe, for their vision, their leadership, and their support of the CNI effort. And most of all, a big thank you to the residents of the Marshall-Ridley neighborhood for your diligent efforts in pursuit of a better tomorrow for our community. As we begin our discussion this evening, it may be helpful to share what the CNI program is and how it came to the Marshall-Ridley community. The Choice Neighborhood Initiative is a national program of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. It began in 2010. The CNI program evolved from the realization that there are many outstanding communities across this country that have tremendous potential for transformation, but that lack the resources and concentrated focus needed to overcome historic and institutional barriers. The CNI program seeks to leverage federal funding with local expertise and knowledge to help communities undertake the transformative measures to reach their underlying potential. To be very clear, communities that are involved in the CNI program are by no means broken places or neighborhoods that need to be fixed. CNI communities are amazing communities, resplendent in strengths, gifts, and assets, representing tremendous existing potential, just waiting to be realized. As we will see in a few minutes, this is certainly the case for our Marshall-Ridley neighborhood. At its core, the Choice Neighborhood Initiative and Program involves a two-step approach to help communities and their residents realize success. The first step in this approach starts with a planning phase, in which the community is challenged to engage in some soul searching. To do this, we turned to the residents of the community, those who live the Marshall-Ridley neighborhood experience day in and day out. In partnership with our residents and community stakeholders, we asked, what are the strengths? What are the gifts? What are the embedded assets of the Marshall-Ridley neighborhood? Where are the opportunities for transformation and enrichment that the neighborhood presents? And what are the needs? And more so, what are the aspirations of our residents? Once identified, the CNI process then challenges us to leverage significant federal funding through an implementation plan to build upon the strengths, the gifts, and the assets of our community in such a way that brings about meaningful enrichment and transformation for our residents, for our neighborhood, and for our city. In partnership with our residents and community stakeholders, we pursue transformation process through three separate areas: housing, people, and neighborhoods. At this point, I'd like to introduce our panelists and guests who, in a few minutes, will guide us through the housing, people, and neighborhood plans. Joining us this evening to address the housing component of our discussion is Ms. Sandra Powell, the Deputy Director of the Newport News Redevelopment and Housing Authority. Ms. Powell is joined by a teleconference by Ms. Lynn Carruth, the CNI Project Coordinator for NNRHA. Also with us tonight is Mr. Kevin Otey, the Chief Operating Officer of the Hampton Roads Community Action Program. Mr. Otey is joined by Mr. Keenan Bratton of the Newport News Public School System, and both gentlemen will share information related to the people portion of our project. Ms. Florence Kingston is the Director of the Newport News Development Department and Executive Director of the Newport News Economic and Development Authority, and will discuss the key elements and activities comprising the neighborhood plan. Ms. Kingston will be joined by a teleconference by Mr. Derek Perry, the Economic Development Manager for the City of Newport News. Now, as I shared earlier, central to the success of the CNI project is the advisory guidance of the residents and stakeholders within the Marshall-Ridley CNI community. As such, we have with us this evening, also via teleconference, Ms. Melanie Crooms, President of the Ridley Place Tenant Council, and Mr. Ernest Thompson, Chair of the Marshall-Ridley Citizens Advisory Committee. And I would invite Ms. Crooms and then Ms. Thompson to say a few words at this time.
Good evening. My name is Melanie Crooms. I am currently President of RTC Ridley Tenant Council, of which I have participated for the last 4 to 5 years. During this time, my daughter and we have graduated from being mayor residents of the Neighborhood Leadership Series to assisting with being the actual voice of the community. I've participated in this initiative to continually help plant seeds of hope in the community during this season of transformation as it becomes a reality. Thank you.
And Mr. Thompson, if you'd care to say a few words for us this evening.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ernest Thompson. I am the chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee. I hope you can hear me. This is an exciting time for what is happening downtown Newport News. We call it downtown, we all that were born and raised here. But the ability to bring this redevelopment and reorganization of downtown Newport News is an exciting time. And so the CAC, the Citizens Advisory Committee, was created to help the community, to help those involved and a part of it to have a voice. And I'll just read to you one of the statements that signifies or it says what this committee is about, the CAC, the Citizens Advisory Committee. And it says it will be the body through which any policy or structural changes to the transformation plan must be approved. The CAC will also be the body through which the residents are engaged for implementation, activities, volunteers, all of the different things. Now, so the CAC has to be the voice. It is created to be the voice for the community. And what we want to do is create subcommittees of young people, young adults, because I say young people because a 13-year-old, 10 years from now will be 23. Seniors, business people and all, to have input and say so into what this community is going to look like, what it's going to sound like, what it's going to be like to live here. Your time to talk now. It's like raising a child. The time to get involved is now. And what we're trying to do is to get everybody that wants to be involved and have a say-so to be able to speak through what is called the CAC. I don't care if you're a shipbuilder, or contractor, educators, tradespeople, authors, orators, teachers, doctors, architects, ministers, real estate agents, whatever, husbands, wives, children. This is the time to become involved, because the community is more than just buildings. And your involvement helps the people, the neighborhood, and the housing become a reality and a vibrant community to live in. And I don't want people that are around the city, I hope you will listen, and because you always hear bad things or bad words about downtown Newport News. And the old adage is, there any good thing that comes out of downtown Newport News? Yes. You heard of Pearl Bailey and Ella Fitzgerald, our current mayor, vice mayor, McKinley Price, our mayor, Tina Vick, our Sandra Cherry, all of these out of downtown Newport News. So we have a lot of possibilities and a lot of potential. So many doctors and lawyers, they are great people. And so the bottom line is, what we're trying to attract is ordinary people to come on board and begin to do extraordinary things in making this vision, this possibility, this reality of the redevelopment of downtown Newport News a reality. You can get in contact with us. I'm quite sure the information will be available. They told me I had 2 minutes. I'm gone.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. So as we continue, you may ask, where is the Marshall-Ridley neighborhood? Well, as you can see from this map, the Marshall-Ridley is located in the historic southeast community of Newport News. Next. The neighborhood is bounded by Marshall Avenue and I-664, Terminal Avenue, and the Chesapeake Bay. The Marshall-Ridley neighborhood is a little over more than 1 square mile in area and is home to a generous mix of residential, commercial, industrial, and open space land uses. You may ask, why are we focused on the Marshall-Ridley neighborhood? The CNI program encourages communities to identify neighborhoods of tremendous potential and existing need. Clearly, given the Marshall-Ridley neighborhood's proximity to commercial, industrial, residential, and downtown areas of our community, as well as its rich historical relevance to Newport News, the neighborhood became a potential candidate for inclusion in the CNI program. When coupled with the existing demographic data we see here, it became clear that Marshall-Ridley represented a community of outstanding potential and significant need. And to our good fortune, HUD agreed. In 2016, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development extended to Newport News a $500,000 grant through which we were able to start the community soul-searching process described earlier. Over a 2-year period, the neighborhood residents, the housing authority, and the city began answering key questions about the strengths and the gifts and the assets, as well as identifying potential resources and partnerships that could be brought to bear to the benefit of our residents. Then in May of 2019, the Newport News Redevelopment and Housing Authority and City of Newport News were awarded a $30 million grant from HUD to help implement its 7-year CNI transformation program for the Marshall-Ridley neighborhood. These federal dollars are being supplemented by local funding in excess of $200 million. Well, that felt like a lot of ground to cover, and I hope it helps explain some of the history and background of the Marshall-Ridley project to date. It's an effort that has been crafted and is being crafted by the vision of our residents and seeks to build upon our community's strengths, gifts, and assets. Much has been accomplished to date. Much more lies before us. At this time, I would ask Ms. Powell to share with the key elements of the Marshall-Ridley Housing Plan.
Thank you, Grant. As you can see, and as you heard from Mr. Thompson and Ms. Crooms and Mr. Duffield, the housing plan, our plan in general, is a highly collaborative effort. The Newport News Redevelopment and Housing Authority and the city have worked hand in hand for decades. This CNI plan has also been an effort that we have included community members and our other members such as HR CAP, and Newport News Public Schools to sharpen our vision for our neighborhood. Our CNI initiatives leverages both private and public investment in order to replace the distressed public housing. Again, the plan contains 3 areas, which is housing, people, and neighborhood. And what I will do is just take a closer look at the housing plan. The Newport News Redevelopment and Housing Authority is the lead for the housing plan. The housing goal aims to replace the Ridley Place public housing community, which is a 256 apartment community, with high-quality mixed-income housing. Many community meetings took place for the CNI transformation plan. The Housing Task Force, which included Ridley residents, community members, Housing Authority, and city staff, as well as business owners, began meeting in 2016. Through the various meetings, the Housing Task Force developed 5 key goals in order to guide the housing plan. The goals included to provide diverse housing types for diverse community, integrate various housing types in an indistinguishable manner, provide affordable housing in an equitable way, increase homeownership rate, and foster community. One notable thing about our housing plan is that our goal is not to only replace Ridley Place units, but we want to recreate a sense of community where affordable housing is seamlessly integrated into the market rate housing. The plan also provides homeownership opportunities for current residents as well as draw new residents who want to become a part of our community. NNRHA and its development partner, Penrose, will develop over 480 replacement, affordable, and market rate units over several phases of development. This rendering shows one of the 2 4-story buildings that will be developed in the 2800 and 2700 blocks of Jefferson Avenue. We consider this phase 1. We're calling these 2 buildings Carrier 1 and Carrier 2, which the community has expressed an interest to at some point rename those. But Carrier 1 is 43 units and will be developed between 29th and 28th Street, and Carrier 2 will be developed between 28th and 27th Street for a total of 81 units. These attractive buildings will each have balconies on the 3rd and 4th floors along Jefferson Avenue. Both will have commercial space and community space on the 1st floor and include a fitness room in the Carrier Point 2 building. In this slide that you see, which is Carrier Point 1, there's also that the non-competitive tax credit application for the other building, which we're calling Carrier 2, has been approved. NNRHA, Penrose, and WRT, which is the project architect, have continued to work on the financing and engineering plans for both developments. Due to this pandemic, it may be a delay in the phasing of this housing. However, our staff is in close discussion with HUD and the funders for this program. Here is the remaining phases of housing, and overall there will be 5 phases. Phases 2 and 3 will be built back on the Ridley site, and this phase will also include 26 homeownership opportunities. Phases 4 and 5 will be built in the 2700 and 2800 blocks of Washington Avenue, which we're calling downtown. There will also be ongoing infill development for homeownership. So by the numbers overall, we plan to construct 487 new units in our plan. 226 will be replacement units, 133 will be affordable housing, and then another 128 will be market rate units, which also includes homeownership units. So in preparation for phase 2, which will be the on-site development, we have already started relocating families off-site. All 60 families which are north of 16th Street have received Section 8 vouchers. Of the 60 families, 23 have already leased as of today. 11 have submitted their request for tenancy approval, which is the paperwork that will help them get their new units inspected. And then 26 are still looking for replacement housing. And we will continue the relocation plan throughout the rest of this year. And the CNI team is also drafting an engagement plan to provide Ridley residents as well as the broader CNI community an opportunity to provide input to flesh out the housing designs for the on-site phases of Ridley. It will include listening sessions and charrettes prior to us refining the on-site plan. More information will be provided soon. And again, just as Mr. Thompson has said, we encourage our residents to get involved and or stay involved. And there's going to be a lot of information as far as who to contact at the end of this presentation. But before I go, I want to introduce Ms. Lynn Caruth, who is with the Newport News Redevelopment and Housing Authority as the CNI project manager, just to say a few words.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Sandra, for the introduction. I am the Choice Neighborhood Initiative, or CNI, project manager. I work with the Newport News Redevelopment and Housing Authority, but my job is to coordinate implementation of the CNI transformation plan, which includes the housing, people, and neighborhood plans, working closely with community residents. I believe that CNI takes a very unique and powerful approach to neighborhood revitalization, and I'm really delighted to be able to participate in the transformation of this community. I hope you all enjoyed this presentation. I look forward to your participation in the transformation of Marshall-Ridley. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra and Lynn. At this moment, I'd like to turn the floor over to Kevin O'Tay, the Chief Operating Officer with Hampton Roads Community Action Program, to share with us elements, components of the people plan for the Marshall-Ridley Choice Neighborhood Initiative.
All right, thank you so much, Grant. We have a lot of great activity that has taken place with the people plan. And as we start off, we first want to share that during the early stages, we envisioned that a sustainable community where children and adults would have access to knowledge, resources, and amenities that would allow them to be active, healthy, and self-sufficiency so that they could thrive. And so throughout this process, the people plan consists of 8 goals. The first one including improving access to quality health services, second, reducing food insecurity, and then increasing and expanding early childhood programs, then continuing of learning and support opportunities, strengthening school to career pathways, job readiness, increasing employment opportunities, and fostering resiliency and self-sufficiency. So these goals helped us to establish 2 components that I'll continue to update you on, which is the case management and people services. But we cannot do all of this work alone. There are over 70 community partners, some of them such as Southeastern Virginia Health System, C. Waldo Scott Center, the Boys and Girls Club, just to name a few. All of these organizations meet the second Thursday of each month at 10 o'clock, which is called our Service Provider Network. And this is where we have the opportunity to coordinate services for all of the residents here in the community. And so some of our updates that you will see is some of the new signage. Throughout the Lifton Connect Center, you will see this visibility of signs. But one of the updates is on November 4th, HUD, along with local officials, announced that the Lifton Connect and Resource Center would be named a HUD Envision Center. And with this designation, the Family Services and People Services team will receive additional support from all HUD staff and partnerships from other federal agencies. So to reflect our new designation, the name of the center has changed to the Lift and Connect Envision Center. In addition, we renamed our neighborhood clinic to the Ridley Wellness Center. So new exterior signs are posted at both of our locations. So since our last meeting, we've had several workshops and seminars from financial literacy, understanding credit, and fair housing. Even during the COVID-19, you have seen that we've distributed over 1,200 fair housing door hangers. You might have even seen them on your door when we dropped off meals. But in late April, we also conducted a special COVID-19 financial literacy workshop, which was considered back to basics. And so over 35 households attended this workshop. So as we look at the people services and resident outreach, a lot has taken place since our last community meeting. So as you can see on the presentation, the first one is we've expanded Wi-Fi and digital kiosks. The Newport News Public Library System has scheduled mobile Wi-Fi hotspots throughout the week from between 11:30 to 12:30 and 4 to 6. You probably have driven through the Lift and Connect Envision Center. You've seen a lot of activity. We have partnered with World Central Kitchen to be able to distribute meals not only in Ridley, but across the region. And so we're actually distributing out of the Envision Center 1,200 meals each and every day. And so we invite all of those that are in need to stop by the hours between 12 and 1 to pick up a meal for you and those in your households. The other part that Head Start is doing is we've started working on virtual classrooms. And so virtual classrooms so that we can continue to keep those young individuals engaged. And so classes are taking place on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can visit hrcapinc.org for more information. The other part is Smart Beginnings. One of our service providers is working with our family services team and providing updates weekly of childcare providers that are open for essential workers that have slots open. One of our biggest initiatives that we are very proud to announce is last Friday, we did our first COVID-19 drive-through and walk-up testing. This was in partnership with Centerra, the Urban League of Hampton Roads, and the Peninsula Health District. We provided over 80 COVID-19 nasal tests that were administered. Now, for more information, you can contact the Peninsula Health District, and that number will be provided later on. And then the last part is our mobile community Wi-Fi bus. You might have seen a lot of press, whether you're watching the local news, but this is in conjunction with our workforce development programs that also take place at Brooks Crossing. And so we are providing Wi-Fi services and employment opportunities and job searches and resume development Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. by appointment only, but you can call, but we do have a lot of open spaces, and I will give those numbers at the end of the presentation. So I have to always talk about case management and talk about service delivery. We have achieved our goal of completing all of the initial intakes, and as you see, the team has completed over 271 initial intakes so far. We have made over 145 service provider network referrals for all of the residents in the community. We've provided over 23 community walks, and because of COVID-19, our case managers had to go to virtuality. And so we have provided over 195 virtual case management hours. In workforce development, we have continued to work, even though Brooks Crossing is currently closed, but I wanted to share some as a year in review from March 2019 to December of 2019, that we've served over 61 participants and 28 entered employment. Now, we want you to know that staff are still available to assist with resume and job placement services via phone and video conferencing. And when I like to end, I always like to tell everyone some of the good things that we're doing for residents. We had a Ridley resident who entered into an HR CAP 2 Gen program on March the 6th of this year. The resident was facing transportation and credit management challenges. They had more than $10,000 in car repairs that were needed. So HR CAP purchased a new vehicle to assist in sustaining employment and childcare. And this was with non-CNI funds. But now the resident has secured a new job, increasing her household income in less than 3 months. And the resident has completed a driver improvement program with Dudley's Driving so that we can assist with them lowering their insurance premium. These are just a few snapshots of what we're doing at the Lift and Connect and Vision Center. And with that, I want you to take the number down. The number is 757-310-6486. So if you have any questions of what's taking place out at the Lift and Connect and Vision Center, you can dial 757-310-6486. And so with that, I'd like to now introduce Keenan Bratton, who is the CNI Education Resource Specialist with the Newport News Public Schools, who is joining us via Zoom to provide an update from schools.
Good evening. I would like to first thank everyone who helped coordinate this opportunity to address the community. As Mr. Ot mentioned, my name is Keenan Bratton, and I'm the CNI Education Resource Specialist with Newport News Public Schools. This position was created to provide a community-based liaison to support educational needs of those impacted by the Choice Neighborhoods initiative here in Newport News. I am available as an education resource and point of contact, and I welcome the opportunity to serve in this role. Our CNI plans include all pre-K through 12th grade children and children who are eligible for early learning opportunities in the Ridley Place neighborhood. Currently, this encompasses 213 Newport News Public Schools children. As I mentioned earlier, we want to support the educational needs of students and families during this transformation, and to improve learning outcomes for children residing in the Ridley Place community. Some of the ways we plan to work with students and families impacted by this initiative include supporting the relocation of families by providing flexible school enrollment options. For the current school year, all CNI students were given the option of remaining in their current school or enrolling in their new zone school once they move. However, due to COVID-19, there will be no school enrollment changes at this time. Once we know more about the reopening of Virginia schools, we will provide more information for enrollment of CNI students. We will reinforce positive youth development opportunities and academic success by offering tutoring, mentorship, and other relative initiatives for youth. This will include initiatives that encourage registration for NNPS extended learning programs like We Leap in 21st Century, magnet programs, and the coordination of other services for students as needed. Newport News Public Schools emphasizes on-time graduation. We plan to monitor student progress and coordinate with families, school personnel, and community partners to provide guidance and graduation support. We will promote kindergarten readiness for prospective kindergarten students by encouraging early learning opportunities such as First Step or Head Start, and offering a kindergarten readiness program for the summer. This program will be in conjunction with our existing Spark program and is open to all Ridley Place children who are eligible for kindergarten in the upcoming school year. Spark plans are being finalized at this time and will be available once they are completed. We strive to empower our youth and plan to support student success by sharing educational information and connecting with available resources that foster college, career, and citizen readiness. For example, coordinating resource fairs that address college or career opportunities. Some other things for CNI families to consider: be mindful of potential changes for students as you prepare to relocate, such as transportation or childcare accommodations, and potential enrollment changes. Think about things like programs and services offered and available opportunities for children in proximity to your residence. Lastly, consider documentation which may be associated with these and other changes, and if possible, Get a head start on these things if you're able to. Additionally, I would like to share some information that applies to Newport News Public Schools as a whole. Based on previous NMPS updates, students should be communicating with their teachers for home learning guidance and support to ensure they are meeting current education, reaching out to all NMPS families with CNI students prior to June 15th. I look forward to connecting and working with you, and I thank you for this opportunity.
That we, the people planned, and all of those that are impacting are here to still be able to support all of the Ridley residents throughout this entire transformation plan. So please contact us, visit us if you are in need of any resources, and to meet with your case managers. And with that, this concludes our portion of the People Plan update. So thank you, Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Ote. Mr. Bratton, thank you for all that you're doing on behalf of the residents of the Marshall-Ridley community. At this time, I'd like to reintroduce Ms. Florence Kingston, Director of Development for the City of Newport News, who will give us an update on the neighborhood plan activities and initiatives.
Good evening, and thank you, Grant. The Department of Development is the primary implementation entity for the neighborhood plan. However, we work very closely with a lot of city departments as well as partners and our residents that are engaged in the effort. I also have the pleasure of serving as the Secretary-Treasurer of the Newport News Economic Development Authority, which is another entity that will play a critical role in the implementation of the neighborhood plan and the broader CNI effort. As Grant alluded to in his overview, there are 5 primary goals connected with the neighborhood plan: connectivity, economic development, neighborhood health, safety, and sense of place. Our implementation activities under the neighborhood plan seek to advance these goals. The core implementation activities within the neighborhood plan are called Critical Community Improvements, or CCIs for short. As part of the Transformation Plan and Implementation Grant, a series of CCIs were identified based upon input from the community. While the neighborhood plan includes a wide range of activity, these are the major implementation items within the plan. The items shown in blue are the CNI-funded CCIs. They are broadband access, gateway elements, a seafood market commercial kitchen, Bates Drive multi-use trail, and outdoor community recreation. The items shown in green are our city-funded CCIs. They include pedestrian scale lighting, co-working space at 2506 Jefferson Avenue, elements of complete streets, and housing emergency repairs. As we engaged with HUD following the award of the grant, we applied for and were approved to receive technical assistance from HUD to help us refine and further develop our CCI plan, to be sure that they are as impactful and transformational for the community as possible. We're excited to be working with the HUD team and HUD's technical assistance provider, Econometrica, in the refinement of this plan. This process will continue over the next several months, and we look forward to continuing our engagement with the Marshall-Ridley community throughout the technical assistance process. While we're continuing to work through technical assistance with HUD, I really wanted to take this opportunity to share the progress we've made on a number of other neighborhood implementation activities. Over the last couple of years, we've been investing in public art within the neighborhood. Shown on the slide are several public art projects that have been completed, celebrating the neighborhood's heritage. We commissioned art from Asa Jackson, who is a Newport News native and grew up in the Southeast community. Asa completed murals of W. Hale Thompson, Pearl Bailey, and Ella Fitzgerald, which are located at prominent locations within the community. We also worked with artist S. Ross Brown to complete the murals at the Boys and Girls Club that depicts Calvin Hobson, James Pooh Johnson, Jesse Ratley, Ellis Bratley, and Police Chief George Austin. With the same objective of neighborhood beautification, the Economic Development Authority has been acquiring strategic properties within the Marshall-Ridley Choice Neighborhood and Greater Southeast community. The EDA has been working with voluntary property owners interested in selling their property. We recently closed on 856 25th Street and 2405 Wickham Avenue. These two properties are located across Wickham Avenue from the Downing Gross Cultural Arts Center. The EDA also has several properties under contract that include 2510 Jefferson Avenue and 608 and 610 Ivy Avenue. Acquisition and redevelopment of these properties will help eliminate blight within the community and provide an opportunity to reactivate these spaces in alignment with our CCIs and neighborhood goals. Lighting improvements in part of Marshall-Ridley Choice Neighborhood and Southeast community are also underway. Over 200 light fixtures have been replaced from high-pressure sodium to LED lighting, with many of the initial lighting upgrades occurring in the area of Madison Avenue and Marshall Avenue. Not only does the improved lighting help visibility, it also helps to deter crime. In the schedule of fixture replacements, we prioritize areas with higher incidents of crime. This initial round of upgraded light fixtures has had a dramatic impact on the visibility and brightness in the roadway and sidewalks. We're continuing to work with Dominion Virginia Power, and ultimately over 486 light fixtures within the community will be upgraded. One of our first implementation activities has been the rehabilitation of 2506 Jefferson Avenue to create a co-working space. This is one of the CCIs shown on the slide earlier. The co-working space will be a location where small businesses can rent low-cost office space and receive business assistance services. Rehabilitation of this vacant structure is supported in part by grant funding from the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. Understanding the presence the facade of the building has on Jefferson Avenue, we've been working dutifully to retain the existing facade. You can see in the photos that the rear of the building has now been demolished. The contractor is working on its shoring up of the front facade with plans to wrap up demolition and begin the installation of structural steel soon. As you can expect with an older building, there have been a number of unforeseen challenges throughout the demolition process, and we're working with the contractor to do our best to keep the project close to on schedule. Another project we've been actively involved in, and Kevin, Mr. T mentioned earlier, is the Brooks Crossing Innovation and Opportunity Center. BCIOC held its grand opening in August of 2019 and includes two elements, the Brooks Crossing iLab and the Brooks Crossing Opportunity Center. The iLab is the first of its kind in Virginia, and through hands-on and project-based learning, will teach skills and technology utilization and serve as a resource for students, parents, and citizens interested in learning about digital technologies used in design and fabrication. Adjacent to the iLab is the Brooks Crossing Opportunity Center, which is a convenient hub for customized services related to career awareness, skill development, training and employment, and support services. At BCIOC, individuals can test for certificate programs and participate in career readiness seminars, workshops, and training programs. If you're looking at growing your skills or learning new ones, please take a look at the services provided at the Brooks Crossing Opportunity Center. It truly offers benefits to those at all levels, whether you're currently employed or looking for a job. Both of these facilities will be reopening to the public soon with the COVID-19 restrictions, and we strongly encourage you to visit and take advantage of the resources they offer. I'd like to introduce Derek Perry, our Economic Development Manager in the Department of Development, who's going to be playing a key support role in the neighborhood plan implementation.
Thank you, Florence, for the introduction. As she shared, on the Economic Development Manager in the Department of Development, and one of my core roles is kind of working behind the scenes to implement and manage a lot of these projects that Florence just shared. I'd like to reiterate what Florence shared at the beginning of her remarks, is that a lot of these activities would not be possible without the support of the broader city organization, housing authority, partner organizations like Newport News Public Schools and HRCAP, as well as the community members that have been engaged in the process. This really is a team effort necessary to bring all these projects to fruition. With that, I'd like to turn it back over to Grant, who I believe will be facilitating a Q&A session.
That's right, Mr. Perry. Thank you so much. Again, many thanks to Ms. Kingston and Mr. Perry for the update on the neighborhood plan. At this point, that wraps up our presentation for this evening. I think we have a few minutes now to take question and answers. Sarah Bowman with the city's communication department is going to share questions that have been posted on Facebook, as well as those that were emailed in. Sarah?
The first question is for Sandra. Michelle and Rebecca would both like to know, when will phase 2 begin in Ridley?
Phase 2 of the construction or for relocation?
They did not specify that.
So phase 2 relocation will start the end of this month, where we will start issuing the tenant protection vouchers to the families who are currently living in a portion of phase 2. Phase 2 is a large section. It's about 100 units. So it will take some time in order to get through the whole phase of relocation. Phase 2 construction, we anticipate probably starting within the next 2 years or so. We do have to do the demolition on the site, as well as some reconstruction and reconfiguring of the site. So I hope that answers the question.
And I have another question for you. Lamont wants to know, how has the pandemic affected the timeline? And this could actually go to all of our panelists if you have information.
As far as construction, we are monitoring it right now because we have not moved any dirt, as we call it in construction. So, but we are doing our application. Some of our application deadlines have been extended for some of the funding. So as of right now, it has not affected the construction. But we are monitoring that pretty closely, especially as construction prices may increase or things like that. So, anyone else?
So I'll say, so for on the people aspect, we want everyone to know that though the buildings are closed, we are still available to assist. We have gone to a virtual environment where case managers can be reached so that we can still stay on task. As it looks in relation to our reporting to HUD, we are still on our timeline of meeting the goals and objectives of reaching residents. However, there's still areas of opportunity for us. We need more individuals to come out and volunteer. We need individuals that can stay in contact with their case managers and let us know the needs. We are here to help if there's any types of emergency assistance. We want you to call your case manager and let them know that people are and services are available to help you.
Go to
One of
Florence.
the biggest challenges that I've seen is we had gotten in a pretty good rhythm of staying in good communication with the community. So not being able to meet in person has been challenging. We're all learning this new technology for Zoom and Microsoft Teams. As we coordinate, we've had a lot of meetings that we'd have our neighborhood representatives working with the city departments. So we're having to learn to approach things differently. For us, the other challenge has been some actions require public actions by city council or economic development authority. So we've not been able to take those actions. So we've pushed progress to the point. Just this past Tuesday, city council appropriated the funding for the neighborhood part of the grant, because that's what the city will be spending directly, and the housing authority will be the lead on the rest of the activities. So some of it is just some of the official actions and paperwork, but we're all still continuing to work, and we really look forward to being able to get back to interacting with the community face to face and share the excitement of the progress that's going on.
Thank you, Florence. Now, Grant and Kevin, you might both work on this question. So, access to transportation and childcare are often cited as challenges to those in the workplace. What is being done to address these under the CNI project?
I think that's an excellent question. And clearly, we find that working with our residents, absolutely, transportation, childcare, access is one of the key elements that our residents cite routinely as need. Our partners with HR CAP done a tremendous job in helping to address some of these issues and help make these services more readily accessible to our residents. To that end, I'll ask Kevin to say a few words about the programs that HR CAP has underway.
Sure. And so, as again with our service provider network, there first we want everyone to know HRT has that opportunity that they are for fair, and so that they're not taking any charge. So that please take advantage of that. But one of the key areas that we have really tried to identify as a need that we keep hearing is about childcare. And our partners at Smart Beginnings has partnered with Child Care Aware of Virginia. And there is a telephone number that is available, and that number is 1-866-543-7852. Again, that's 866-543-7852. And that listing and the number is updated every week. And that listing is given to the Family Services staff. And that will allow them to know what child care providers are currently open that has availability. And so we want you to know that there are slots available for you, but we need you to contact your case manager so they can coordinate transportation, because we can also get you to different places if you can't get on the bus. We have relationships with some of the fare and taxi areas, as well as Uber. And so we have those resources available. We just need you to contact us, and we're there. And to contact us again, that number is 757-310-6486.
And Kevin, I shared that number in the chat as well. So if anybody's watching on Facebook, it is there as well. And I have a question for the panel. I'm not sure who wants to take this one. Lamont wants to know, has private investment been what you've expected so far to match or enhance the grant money?
Absolutely. I'll take that. For example, the building where our Brooks Crossing Innovation and Opportunities Center is located. We are a tenant on that first floor, and the developer of Brooks Crossing, it's a combination of Aaron Brooks and Amada Hoffler, built that building that the shipyard leases upper floors. So investment at Brooks Crossing. There have been some other investments down at the Seafood Industrial Park, Fairleigh Boat Works, Chesapeake Bay Packing. A number of our SIP businesses have made improvements and investments. So we are on track. An important part of when we were competing for this grant was to show that there was both public and private leverage that would be coming along with the $30 million. And so that has been very, we are ahead on that. It's exciting that we're at that point because there's probably a little unknown over the next coming horizon with COVID-19 of how that's going to impact that investment. But we see a number of projects that are on the horizon that should be implemented pretty soon.
I'll follow that up just briefly to Florence's point. As we move into the critical community investments that improvements that Florence talked about during her presentation, we're going to see tremendous opportunity for private investment and the private sector to become more involved in the economic development of the Marshall-Ridley neighborhood, with all intent to create additional jobs and opportunities for our residents there. So it's an exciting time.
This also might be another group question or Florence. Toya is asking about a seafood market or community kitchen.
Right. That is one of what we call the critical community improvements. When we've been having discussions trying to find the right location for that, one of the neighborhood leadership academies that our planning folks lead and working with residents and building the capacity made a recommendation about a location for that. So that's a project that we're excited to get further along. The site that we're looking at is within the Seafood Industrial Park. That lease, the current lessee is through the end of the year. So that's one of the projects. When we do get our critical community plan refined and supported by the community, HUD will approve that, and that's a project that I expect us to see hopefully get into design over the next 12 to 18 months.
And Florence, another question for you. Has the lack of a neighborhood pharmacy been addressed by the plan?
We have had working, I think, HR CAP and a number of different organizations have met with and talked to several folks that have expressed an interest in a pharmacy. It is something that when Rite Aid closed their pharmacy facility, created a void in the community. There are, Riverside and their health clinic does serve a small portion of that need, and we are continuing to work with potential. That is something that is a goal for us to be able to, with some of the public investment in place, potentially make that attractive, whether it comes to Brooks Crossing or we find another facility that we could generate the interest for that.
Sandra, Claudia would like to know, how are we assisting the 26 families still looking for housing in Phase 1?
So the families all have a caseworker, and those caseworkers, as well as a housing choice voucher worker, they are helping the family locate housing. With this plan, there's also relocation assistance. So those families, depending on where they move to, they receive that relocation assistance. Some families are moving outside of the area, but most of the families are living inside of the area. So,
and another question for you. Will the new housing at Ridley be protected by sprinkler systems?
it depends on how tall the buildings are. So, and it depends on the code at the time that we do our construction. So the sprinkler systems are in Phase 1, which is what we're calling Carrier 1 and 2 at 2800 Jefferson Avenue. That is a 4-story building. Some of the units that go back on the Ridley site will be 2 stories, and some of them will be 3 stories. So again, it just depends on the configuration of the unit at the time that we do construction.
Great, thank you. And this next question is for Keenan on Zoom. My student does not have the necessary resources to maintain learning at home. Are there resources available to support my child or families?
Yes. So as I mentioned earlier, students and families can contact their teachers or building administrators regarding resource needs. They are still accepting those. So please, if you have not already and are in need of those items, go ahead and reach out to your teachers and administrators. If you're not getting in contact with those folks, you can also reach out to me and I would be able to support that as well. And we will try to make sure we understand the need that you have and then work toward getting those items to you.
And Kevin, could you please provide an overview of the services that are available at the Lift and Connect Envision Center?
Sure. So, of course, Lift and Connect Envision Center is closed at the moment. However, we've been very creative and we are doing outdoor engagement opportunities, still practicing social distancing. The first part is that we have a bus that has partnered with the Virginia Peninsula Health District, and that bus is kind of a carryover from Brooks Crossing. And our workforce development team is available by appointment, where we can help you if you're trying to file for unemployment or you want to complete your file your taxes, or we want you to complete your census. You can come and get on the bus and do that right away. There's a staff member that's there available to help you. The other part is we have a meal distribution. So if you're in need of food, you can come and grab a meal for both yourself and your family. The other part is our case managers are on staff there. Though they can't meet with you, on a one-on-one session, they will schedule it for you via virtual meeting. They are available to assist you. The other part is we're there to also coordinate all of the services that you may need. Our emergency services team that's led by Ms. Francis and Mr. Brown, who is our workforce development director, are there to help you in any needs that you have. So please contact us and come and see us. Again, if you really want to come out and see us, they're there between 12 and 1. And of course, you want to practice social distancing. But if you need some PPE, you can come out and they can also help you too.
Sandra, once I move, can I return to the CNI neighborhood?
Absolutely. We encourage everyone who is relocated because of the demolition and redevelopment of the area to return to the neighborhood. As far as the new rental units, the family who does return has the right to return. Just keeping in mind they must be lease compliant and in good standing in their current unit.
And Florence, what do you look for with your strategic property purchases? What properties get considered when you're evaluating them?
First and foremost, we look at a voluntary acquisition and an owner that is willing to sell. We are not trying to go in and buy properties that someone is not interested in selling. We want to identify properties that really help us to fulfill the goals of the neighborhood plan, how it can reinforce, bring new investment, create infill quality housing that can give residents opportunity when they return. So it needs to be fit within our vision and our plan. It needs to be reasonable. Sometimes there's been new investment nearby, and there may be some older, outmoded improvements on the property. So we try to open up the neighborhood. Sometimes add green space can be when we're looking at properties that complement the surrounding area.
Thank you, Florence. Grant and somebody else might also want to help answer this. Why are we spending $30 million in this area? Couldn't these funds be used elsewhere?
That's an excellent question, and I certainly thank the viewer who submitted that. $30 million is a lot of money, and $30 million could do a tremendous amount of good in any number of neighborhoods. The simple fact is the funds are made available through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to specifically address critical needs within certain communities that meet HUD's guidelines. These are communities that demonstrate significant challenges, significant barriers to success, and the funds are dedicated by federal regulation to be spent in those neighborhoods and areas. I know that we look routinely for ways to make strategic investments across the city and do all that we can to bring the most value to all of our residents. This is a case in which our efforts are directed by the dollars and the strings that are attached to them. Florence, do you want to add?
This created a great opportunity for the city to take some of the work and the planning work that our planning department has led and put a shot in the arm. We knew that $30 million wasn't going to be enough. It's an older part of the city that has a lot of rich heritage and assets that reinvestment over time for some modernization and to really give a boost back to highlight some of the assets that are there in the community. And that gave us, going after this grant, really helped us align all the different economic development goals with people goals and housing goals, and look holistically so that it's not just focusing on one piece. Really, the CNI having people, housing, and neighborhood, sort of three legs of the stool that give us the opportunity to reinforce different elements. You can't bring retail. Retail follows rooftops, so we need to bring back residents coming back into the community. As Sandra talked in her housing section, they are building more units than just the replacement of the Ridley Place residential, and create some new opportunities for people that may have lived in the neighborhood in years past and want to come back. So looking at it holistically, and it was a community that had, a vision, and it was right for us to spend attention and really be able to help highlight that success.
And this is the last question. Sandra, Lamont wants to know, can people who do not live in Ridley Circle but are in the CNI area be considered for the new housing?
Absolutely. We encourage, as Florence had just talked about, and as we talked about in our housing plan, we are building approximately 487 new units, of which some of them will be affordable homeownership units. So yes, there will be housing, replacement housing, as well as affordable and market rate housing in this plan. And also, I would encourage all of our residents to please continue to work with your HR CAP case manager. Make sure that you're following all the rules so that you can take advantage of all of these programs that they have, all of the HUD programs that they have. These are great opportunities for families. So again, I encourage you to take the opportunity to make sure that you meet with your caseworker and follow whatever the plan is that they have laid out for you.
Great. Thank you so much, Sandra. Well, that brings us to the close of our CNI 101 presentation and discussion this evening. As we conclude, I want to extend many thanks to our panelists and guests for the tremendous work that they're doing on behalf of our community and for their participation this evening. Again, many thanks to Dr. Newby and Ms. Bowman and all who made the presentation this evening possible. And of course, many thanks to our residents and viewers for your continued support, faith, belief in the efforts that are underway. I want to also encourage everyone viewing, please do all that you can to stay involved with this effort. It is absolutely critical that we have your support and your involvement. Visit our website, our Facebook page, look for opportunities to become involved. We welcome that. If your question wasn't answered this evening, or you have more questions, please email us at newportnewschoice@nnva.gov. And lastly, I want to make sure that everyone watching this evening, please respond to the 2020 census. It's something that all of our communities need for the betterment of our city. Thank you. Stay safe. Have a wonderful evening.